There is a layer of ash buried under London. You cannot see it from the street. It sits beneath the offices, the traffic, and the centuries of city stacked above it. Burned earth and charred timber pressed flat under modern life. A queen put it there. Before London became the city we know today, it was Londinium. Young, Roman, wealthy, and far less protected than its people believed. When Boudica's army came, the governor reached the city first. The people looked to him for safety. Suetonius had soldiers, he had authority. He had the full weight of Rome behind him, but not enough men to save London. If he stayed, he could lose the city and the army. If he left, the city would belong to her. He chose the army. The soldiers withdrew from the streets beside the Thames. Those who could run, ran. Those who could not were left behind, waiting for a queen whose name was already moving through Britain like fire. Then Boudica arrived. By the time the flames died, Roman London was gone, flattened into the black layer we would find nearly 2,000 years later. The road to that fire began with a dying king who thought he had found a way to protect his family. Prasutagus was king of the Iceni. He had spent years surviving beside the most powerful empire in the world, keeping his crown by giving Rome enough that its officials never bothered to take the rest. His people still called him king. Boudica still stood beside him as queen. Their daughters still carried the future of the royal house. Roman power pressed closer every year, not with swords, but with taxes, loans, officials, and the quiet talent for making a kingdom smaller without ever calling it conquest. So near the end of his life, Prasutagus made one last bargain. He named the Emperor Nero as co-heir alongside his daughters. To him, it was protection. If Nero received a share, perhaps his daughters would keep the rest. If the emperor's name stood inside the will, perhaps Boudica and her children would be left untouched. Prasutagus died believing he had shielded them. The men who came afterward read that will as permission. They arrived with claims, debts, and the confidence of officials who knew a dead king could not argue. The emperor's name, written as a safeguard, became the opening they reached through to take everything Prasutagus had tried to preserve. Land and wealth were seized, and families close to the crown lost the protection that had come from standing near the king. The daughters named as heirs were not treated as a future to honor, but as obstacles in the way of men who had come to collect. Boudica remained inside the house her husband had tried to save, watching his last act of love become the instrument of its ruin. Then the taking of property became the breaking of bodies. The surviving Roman account says Boudica was flogged. It says her daughters were raped. A queen who had stood beside a king was beaten into a warning. Her daughters, named as heirs, were treated as if inheritance vanished the moment Roman officials wanted the land. The men responsible wanted the violence to travel. It did, not as fear, as rage. By the time the officials understood the mistake, the story had already outrun them. It moved through the Iceni and beyond, carried by servants, traders, farmers, and families who had watched collectors enter their homes. Veterans take their land, and promises turn into demands. No trumpet announced it. Across the countryside, people listened, chose sides, sharpened blades, hid what they could not carry, and looked toward the towns where Roman confidence had been built in stone. The first was Camulodunum. To Rome's veterans, it was a reward, land, status, and a temple to the emperor rising over the conquered. To the people around it, the town stood on memories of confiscation, paid for by those expected to worship the power that ruled them. When Boudica's army came, Camulodunum called for help. too little arrived. The defenders were overwhelmed. The temple built to display Roman permanence filled with the terrified, and the monument raised to imperial power became the place where Roman certainty died. Camulodunum burned. For years, Roman rule had seemed too vast to reach. Roads, soldiers, laws, and the certainty that resistance would be crushed before it could matter. Now a Roman town was ash. Veterans were dead. A temple to the emperor had not saved a single soul inside it. Boudica moved before the shock could settle. Ahead of her was the town on the Thames, young, useful, ambitious, and full of people who believed a place so valuable to Rome would never be left exposed. That is where the layer of ash comes from. This is the night it was made. Suetonius got there first. The people looked to him because he carried the promise every Roman town wanted to believe. That command meant order, that soldiers would stand, that the empire would not let their future burn in front of them. He counted what he had. Not enough men, not enough time, not enough chance. He ordered the city abandoned. The soldiers left the streets beside the Thames. Those with the strength, money, or luck to flee went with them. The rest stayed among the houses, warehouses, coins, records, and market stalls of a city whose usefulness had not been enough to save it. Then Boudica entered London. The fire did not sort the guilty from the ordinary. It took the official and the traitor, the powerful and the helpless, the people who served the system and the people who had only lived too close to it when vengeance reached the gates. London burned until its future was ash. Verulamium fell next, and by then the revolt was no longer moving like a warning. It was moving like a fire looking for air. 3 towns were gone, and Suetonius could not keep chasing destruction from road to road. He needed a single field, one place where Boudica's numbers would matter less than Roman discipline, where victory would stop feeding her, where the province could be pulled back from the edge. So he chose his ground carefully. Boudica came to it with 3 ruined cities behind her and a force swollen by victory. Wagons followed the army, carrying families who had come to watch the end of Roman power in Britain. They had not come for retreat. They had come to see it finished. Boudica stood before them not as a distant symbol, but as the woman whose house had been broken in public, whose daughters had been pulled into the wound that began the war, and whose army now believed her pain could become their freedom. Behind her were the dead husband's failed bargain, the stolen kingdom, the burned cities, and the impossible hope of people who believed the old fear had finally changed sides. Then the Britons charged. The field narrowed around them. Their numbers pressed inward instead of spreading wide. The weight of the crowd became part of the danger. Men shoved from behind, while the front met a Roman line that did not break. Javelins struck the advance. Shields locked. The soldiers moved as one body. The force that had swallowed towns now found itself trapped on ground chosen by a man who knew how to kill momentum. Suetonius never tried to match Boudica's fury. He placed it where it could not breathe. The charge failed. The wagons brought so families could watch the victory now blocked the only escape. The people who had come to see Rome fall were trapped behind the collapse of their own hope. The revolt ended in slaughter. Then Roman control returned. The roads reopened. The towns were rebuilt. Officials went back to their records, soldiers to their posts, merchants to their trade, and the world Boudica tried to burn away settled back over Britain as if she had never come. They even got to write the history. Every word we have about her was set down by the people who defeated her. They could record the battle, They could count the ruined towns. They could describe the queen who terrified a Roman province. But they could not give her a clean ending. One account says she took poison. Another says illness took her. Her grave has never been found. Her daughters vanish from the record entirely. No voice from her own people survives to tell us what she thought when it was over, whether she regretted the cities, whether the price had grown too high, or whether the fire was the only language left after men turned law into violence against her family. So she became a story told by her enemies. Then London rose again over the place she burned. Streets changed. Buildings climbed. One city laid itself over another until the fire seemed lost to the living world. Then the ground gave it back. A band of charred timber and burned earth pressed flat beneath the modern city. The remains of the day, London was abandoned by its governor and met by a queen carrying the fury of a broken house and a wounded people. Boudica lost the battle. She lost the kingdom her husband died trying to save. She may have lost everything she set out to protect, but under London, the fire stayed. Not in a statue, not in a Roman account, in the ground itself. Some women do not survive because the powerful preserved their voices. They survive because the evidence refused to disappear. Those are the stories we follow here. Stay with her story through time. There are more women buried beneath the versions of history powerful people left behind.